Welcome back to another episode with Bull Fierce. As you can tell, since it's just me sitting in here in the studio, that the program that I wanted to have starting this Friday, well, actually it started last Friday, was the next episode in the series. I wanted to have individuals on board here to tell their stories, whether they had, their journeys in particular into natural bodybuilding. Whether they've had some strange experiences or great experiences, I should say, maybe some tremendous weight adjustments they've done in their life and how it's reflected on the rest of their life. And of course, always focusing on natural athletes. And I did have something scheduled. Unfortunately, it fell through yesterday. And so I'm going to do a little bit of an impromptu, since maybe a bit strange, I guess. I'm going to go from one end of the spectrum to the next. So instead of talking about something super, super positive, I'm going to zero in on a little bit more of on the negative aspects of drugs and what they've done to our sport, and some of the recent things that have happened that have impacted many, many individuals, families, etc. And hopefully I can take the time to drive this message through with good intentions. I might come across sometimes as being a little bit harsh, but this is a war. I'm assuming this is an all-out battle, and I'm taking my stance for natural athletes. I'm hoping to bring along and get as many followers as possible to get a modicum of inertia going in our favor for get some prestige given to our natural athletes, get some have people being noticed and recognized for their efforts, and not only that, but being recognized for being an inspiration to those, to show them of just what you can accomplish if you don't take the easy route out. And those will always dispute me whether it's an easy route or not, but you've taken the easy route out. You're taking drugs, you take an easy route out. You want it today, you don't want it tomorrow, you want it yesterday, actually, so this is the route you've taken. So with that, I did go into a discussion a number of streams ago in regards to the state of the situation that we have in our with drugs in our sport. But I didn't go super in depth. Maybe we'll dig a little bit deeper and take a few more layers out of the onion today, and talk about specific losses in our sport, and always keeping in mind that we really only hear about the ones that are in the second here, that are in the media, right? Tons and tons of others that are not in the media, and they should be noted. Thousands of lives are being affected all the time by loss of life, loss of so much, all due to drugs. And and drugs, if you really think about it, are just the final, not even the final, they're just another part of the picture of what is going on in our world today. We've come to the point where we no longer want to take a stand against anything, because then you're deemed narrow-minded. You take a stance on, some of the real hot topics: capital punishment, abortion, pro-life goes hand in hand with that, or not. Obviously, drugs, and anyway, you name it. There's so many hot topics out there that as soon as you take a stance on them, you're deemed narrow-minded. That's because we've become a very weak society, extremely weak. They've misinterpreted, standing up for something as being right. And now the interpretation that's widely used is, well, everybody's version of right. No, there isn't a million different versions of right. Okay, there's maybe a different versions of what makes a great cake, or what makes a great car. But in certain moral issues, there's got to be rights and wrongs, folks. And I know I'm not going to make a lot of friends with this broadcast, but that's okay, because even if it only stirs up more debate and more talk, I'd rather have it that than just have it swept under the rug and people just assume what's going on is all right, because it's not. It's not all right. None of it's all right. The idea that you can just go out there and do what you want, no matter how many lives you hurt or harm, or that's just it. People always say, well, it's their choice. Well, their choice is affecting many, many people. That's the whole problem. If you were living under a rock or in some bubble somewhere and you decide to go out and do something, it wasn't gonna, but that's not the real world. You hurt other lives, intended or not, it happens. So let's talk about where drug use has gone. I mean, we've gone from when I first started in the sport, and keep in mind, drug use has been around. Who really knows? I think most of the literature I read, it'll go back to the, maybe the 1940s, 40s, 50s, but it wasn't widespread in use in sport. I mean, like any other drug out there, it was developed with a specific purpose. And almost all these drugs in particular, almost every drug that you can get your hands on these days, for whatever, was developed for medical purposes. That's the reality. It was for medical purposes. So but we as human beings, we have that tendency to, we're given an inch and we take a mile, and it's got us into a lot of trouble. When I broke into this sport, it was so hush hush, even though, people in the know in the sport, whether it be Olympic sport, whether it be weightlifting, whether it be bodybuilding, they all knew people were using, and they all were. Don't kid yourself if you think, X amount of all these other Olympic athletes are all clean. You really think it's possible to keep breaking records like sometimes 2-3 times in a year? What do you think that is? You really think we're developing some superfoods or some expert, so much so sophisticated training techniques? Some of the best athletes are built on rudimentary basics of everything, whether it be equipment, training techniques. So that's a load of hooey. Okay. I mean, it's nice if you can get your hands on the best of everything, but that's not why records are being broke left, right, and center. And anybody that disputes that, well, you get your head in the sand. Okay? So all athletes, every sport you can think of, and even some sports you wouldn't even think of, they're taking drugs now for things like skeet shooting and archery. They're using drugs to steady their aim. Isn't that just ludicrous? You can't even do a sport like that. I just happen to wonder, is it also in curling and everything else now too? I don't know where it ends, but we do know there's so many different forms, right? There's things that build strength. There's things that build endurance. There's things that mentally get you into a specific frame of mind. There's so many things that people are doing these days, and it's gotten to the point where it's so out of control that people are now delving into areas that are just, I mean, they just never be touched. They're now trying to take the machinery of the human body and run it themselves. They're screwing around with the endocrine system. They're into insulin and growth hormone and combination. Not only that, then they're taking all the pharmaceutical drugs that were developed for medical reasons and using in sport. And on top of that, they're going from there and they're bringing in recreational drugs at the same time. Like, it's just a cocktail that's just going to explode. It already has started exploding. And only now, and this is just the very tip of the iceberg, are we starting to see the ripple effect of what's going on. I mean, I mentioned earlier in my other stream about so many of the big names that were around, when I was training, and many of them have died. And I got to tell you, they died at a very early age. Very few, if any of them, even reached the age of 50. And they were big names. Arnold wasn't the only big name back then. And not everybody, succumbed to the, to the drug problems. But that's has to do with a lot of issues. This comes really down to a lot of things. What you take, how often you take it, whether you maybe have any genetic predisposition. Like if you're just, if you got a predisposition to heart issues or kidney issues in the family anywhere, and you're starting, or liver issues, because these are the three big killers: heart, liver, and kidney, and some of them all three. You have any issues with those in your family history, and you're playing around with anabolics, your life is not going to be very long. That's a sad statement, but it's not going to be very long. And so next time you're looking at your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, you know full well what they're doing. You think about that. Think about what they're putting ahead of what's important in life. Some of the, I remember when I must have been, good Lord, I'd have to think I was 30 years old. The first really big name death in the sport was Mohammed Benaziza, or I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce the name. I apologize for that. And his name went by the name Momo, and he was the first big name to die, and it had a very big impact. There was a few individuals that were on the circuit at that point that stopped competing. One of those big names at that point was actually a Canadian bodybuilder, very small. Many people probably have never heard of him, but he had an excellent physique. But he was very open about his drug use, and he ended up, it's not long after that, I do believe, just getting right out of the sport altogether. It was just too scary. Who else? Not long after that, I do believe that was when Hubert Metz, man who they considered to be the most ripped individual that ever stepped on an IFBB stage. When they did an autopsy on him, they said that his whole insides were almost like, they looked like they had melted. There was nothing left of him. So they must have been abusing themselves. Between building drugs, diuretics, cutting agents, plus, frigging around with their endocrine system. Sorry, we're not God. We do not have the ability. We have all these gurus, but let me tell you, those gurus are not going to be around. They're not going to be there when your loved one passes away, or when your loved one is now debilitated for the rest of their life. And only, and then some of the other bigger names, that died. I mean, so many. There's just too many to even mention. And then there's the ones that just you don't hear about them anymore because they basically ended up on Skid Row. I mean, the whole lifestyle was it was everything that bodybuilding was not supposed to be. Now we have this terrible vision of what bodybuilding is. We think it's just some egotistical, narcissistic sport that is completely unhealthy and has no real goal or no real benefit. But true bodybuilding is the ultimate in healthy sports. It is. You take drugs out of the equation, you take a man or a woman, they go into the gym, and their sole goal is to take what they see in front of them, and now they are going to sculpt through nothing but hard work, mental vision, diet and nutrition, and rest. And they're going to create what they want or what they see. Some will take that on stage and display it, and others won't. They're going to eat, at times like a Spartan, and the other times just a good, solid, all-around eating diet. Those people who have it really right have a very healthy outlook on life. They don't have to rule out the rest of the world. They can't take part in family functions or functions with their significant other or whatever the case might be. No, their life is balanced. Plus the benefit of what it does for you and how it rolls over into other areas of your life. You're doing it right. You will develop focus skills beyond what I could ever explain to you. You'll develop drive, the ability to visualize things that most people won't even have a clue what you're talking about when you mention those things. Anyways, so there's just there's so many people that have passed away or become extremely ill due to drug abuse, and that's just it. People at one point, they were kind of happy to take a little bit. Was that acceptable? No, it's never acceptable. But at least, you know what, there was almost this modicum of, of reserve. And it's like, okay, we acknowledge, there could be a problem here and we want to go crazy here. But like everything else, give them an inch, they took a mile. All of a sudden, well, I took this much and this happened, or this guy's taking that much, and I want to beat him next year, or I want to look better than him or her or whatever. Then it becomes a race and a debate, and then it becomes totally, totally out of control, which is where we're at. And only in the last few years has it got real attention because of sadly, because of one of the areas in our life, I think, that is totally out of control and is screwing up everybody. It's social media. Social media can be a wonderful thing, but it's been so abused, and people are just using it as their outlet to be complete asses. And I do mean that, complete asses most of the time. They use it to hide, when they want to speak their opinions. They're too afraid to actually do them in public. They use it to manipulate others and scam others. And anyways, point being, social media brought to light some of the more recent deaths. And these are people that were well known in the social media platforms. One of the biggest being, and when I get into this is not a slam on any individual. But on the other hand, I'm tired of these shows that get on here and discuss these individuals and say, well, we don't want to be disrespectful to so and so, and we have to abide by family's wishes and all that. That's all fine and dandy. What we do need to do is stop sweeping it under the rug and accept the fact that there's a major drug problem and it's causing people grief, loss, hurt, and pain. So to those people who have false intentions in the first place, all they want to do is hide the facts, because this is how they make their living. There's many big names that have shows on a regular basis. Their whole show is about how to take drugs, or what's a good drug or what's not a good drug. And it's ridiculous. And these are the people that are saying, well, we have to be, kind and considerate to families. No one that I know is openly taking shots at individuals that have passed away due to, drug abuse. But it's just like every other abuse. Why is this any different? Someone dies from alcoholism or a heroin overdose. Do we do that? No, we don't do that. Oh, but here now we have somebody here that, was this picture of so-called health or whatever. And, he died this unexpectedly. Well, it wasn't unexpected. Chances are they're already having major problems. Okay, that's the fact. But the loss of these lives, it hasn't just cost them their life. It's destroyed other lives around them. Some of these people, these people were brothers, they were sisters, they were fathers, they were sons, they were friends. And they just went about this stuff willy-nilly and didn't give a shit about anybody else. And sadly, they paid for it with their life. Two of the biggest names, just to show you, it's gotten worse. You would think, well, it's only going to happen to the older guys. It's getting to the point now, we know people in their teens that have died from steroid or performance enhanced drug use. A combination of that with social drugs, that type of thing. Two of the biggest names just in the last few years being Dallas McCarver and Rich Piano. You know what? I barely even follow either one of these individuals, and I feel for them. I really do. I feel for them. I feel for them that they didn't see what was coming. Rich talked openly. I did watch a number of his videos. He talked openly and realized the risk he was taking. You never saw him, in all respect to him, you never saw him going out there and telling guys to, at least not publicly, yeah, go out there and do this or do that, and God bless him for that. But you'd wish he just looked and did a little introspective on himself and realized that what he was doing just wasn't worth it. To Dallas McCarver was the youngest, I think the youngest IFBB pro that we know of anyways. He was only 26 years old and just passed away. And everybody wants to just sweep this under the rug. But I want to bring it to light just because I've just had enough of drugs in sport. I don't care if it's bodybuilding or CrossFit or, Tour de France. It doesn't matter. I just want to see an effort, just as much effort put into the drug-free athletes as there are in the drugged athletes. And the only way that's going to happen is by people bringing these issues, these social issues, to the forefront and getting some support. Just to show you, I mean, I sent out memos to 3 different natural bodybuilding associations, 3 of them, a week and a half ago, because I was looking for people. I wanted to get, some support to start driving this mechanism, to which in the end should benefit them. We're talking about promoters, and we're talking about heads of organizations that's so-called natural, even though many of these shows are being won by non-natural athletes. At least if you're going to, you're going to state that you're a natural organization, at least do everything you can to propagate that aspect of things. I sent out memos to all 3 of them looking for people. I want them to get involved in some of the live streams, to, make known about their shows, where the state of testing is at, what they, how they feel about things, whatever, just to, open up the discussion, get people involved. I didn't get a single response. And I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. There's lots of people out there. I know it's just going to take time to get it going. But like I said, I've been involved in this sport for 43 years now. 43 years, and I am going to be getting back on a stage. I just turned 60 2 days ago, and I will be getting back on stage. And it would have been this October if it hadn't been for the pandemic situation. Lost 4 months of training and just got back into it last week. But on the overall, they said it's if you want the natural movement to progress, then you have to support it. So that means promoters, organizations, and the athletes themselves. I am going to do some type of a blitz on my social media platforms and the different pages that I have. Hopefully get people that want to, come on and tell their story and talk about the sport. If you love it as much as I love it, get involved. Okay. So anyways, so we come to this point now where drugs have gotten to be so mainstream that literally some major player in the sport dies, and within a few days, a week later, it's almost like it's old hat. No one even talks that much about them anymore. Doesn't anybody think that's sad? It should be sad, but it's because we live in this world where it's just easier to cover it up, than it is to do something about it. People don't want to be bothered to do anything. Just another for instance, I sent out a memo to a buddy of mine, and because one of the things I wanted to have on like this Friday show was actually going to be about individuals that have either spent a good pile of their years training, have a story, have a history, or how their training affected the rest of their life, or what case may be. This is supposed to be a close friend of mine. He doesn't live in the same city. I sent a memo out to him twice. Didn't even respond. I just shake my head some days. I shake my head because it's like, this is how we become with people. We don't want to, we want to bitch and complain when things don't go well. We want to bitch and complain when things don't get done. But when people are giving you opportunities and you have a chance to support friends or family and you don't step up to the plate, well, you lose the right to ever even say anything negative anymore. But I can tell you, if someone was doing what I'm doing here right now, and they came on and they contacted me and said, you know what, we heard about, what's going on with you in the last few years. We'd love to hear your story. I'd get on a plane and get there, because I want people to know that this is a cause that's it's a cause worth propagating for multiple reasons. A, we need to take the unhealthy element out of the sport. B, we need to, we need to stop this ridiculous loss of life for what? For a trophy? Sometimes not even a trophy. Sometimes just so you can look good in the bar. I'd say 90 to 95% of the population that actually takes a lot of performance-enhancing drugs will never step on a stage, and have never. They are so insecure, and this is their security blanket, and they don't realize that as soon as they go off, they go downhill, and not even mentally. They even know now mentally they're going downhill. They're seeing themselves downhill, and nobody is noticing them anymore. So they're in worse shape than when they stepped in there in the first place. You got to stop that. It's a mental problem. It's a medical issue. It's a moral issue. And people might want to just stick to their ideology that whatever one person does to themselves, it's their business. I don't buy that, because as I mentioned earlier, unless you live under a rock, everything you do influences somebody in your life, right down from your grandkids to your grandparents. Somebody you've affected by making their own choice. Okay? But not only that, taking a sport, which should be something beautiful. I mean, really, I can't explain to you what it's like to put in tons and tons of hard work, but very fulfilling hard work. Taking a body from how you see it and what it is, and having those two things merge just through your own steps, the clinical steps you took to get it from A to B. That is so satisfying. There are very few things in life that are that fulfilling when you can make that big of a physical change in your life. And not only that, but it'll have a very strong impact on your mental aspect of your life. That will roll over into positiveness in your life, which will roll over into other people that are in your life. It's a very much a win-win situation. But if we don't get some support, people are not going to know about it. So I'm going to keep putting on these live streams every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. We're going to get into more once the gyms are fully functional, especially once my own club is open here. Doing exercise demonstrations, a little bit more in-depth stuff there. I do believe I'll be able to do some of that at the gyms where I'm training there right now. But for the next couple of weeks, it'll be in studio work, and hopefully, anybody that's watching, if you know somebody, I don't care where they're from, what continent they're on. If you have an interest in natural training, whether it be bodybuilding, fitness, or just, getting into better shape, dropping weight, you have a story, or you have, whether it's just straight human interest that has something to do, tied into training. And I want to hear about it. And I do believe a lot of people out there want to hear about it. They're looking for inspiration. Here's your chance. Anyways, I do apologize once again for not having a real life story to share with you tonight. I was really looking forward to that. But hopefully for next Friday, we can have that nailed down. Hopefully that'll be changing. And if not, it's going to change eventually, because I'm not quitting. I don't quit at anything. And I don't want you to quit at anything either. Once again, my name is Perry, and we're both First Training. So anybody, take care. God bless. And train both ears.